Hey, what's up, guys? How y'all doing today? Listen, we got to get into this. The jury instructions just dropped. The jury verdict instructions just dropped. I was a little under the weather today, but I still decided to come out and actually celebrate. You guys, the prosecution has 100% proven their case. We have the jury instruction. Let me see if I can get some light in here. We have some jury instructions to actually share with you guys, right? Excuse me, I've been sick, but I'm up, okay? We have some jury instructions sent to you guys, but it is proven 100% that the prosecution has 100% proven their case when it comes to Sean Diddy Combs. And on top of that, Diddy's team tried some slick mess. The prosecution, Maureen Comey, came back and said, nah, not on my watch. Y'all, let's get into this because let me tell you something. Okay, I even took notes for this. It is so good. We have the jury instructions, the verdict instructions. We are going to go through them. We're also going to line up on how this is, but we're also going to talk about the legal finesse that Diddy's team tried to do that just actually fell flat. Okay, so where do we start? What do y'all want to see first? What do y'all want to say? This is all Diddy legally grasping for straws, okay? Now, let me give you guys a quick summary from my notes because I know some of y'all don't like to stay here for the whole 2-hour live. And yes, I'm doing this live off of my sick bed, so you're welcome, okay? So what is it, okay? This is the jury verdict instructions. The instructions are rules that the judge gives the jury on how to decide the case, all right? Now, listen, these are the first instructions that Diddy actually showed. 1 second, y'all. Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to take my camera down real quick, and I'm going to put these jury instructions off on whatever. You get the point. Hold on. So these are the jury instructions. Just give me 1 second, okay? Give me 1 second to get through these jury instructions. Here I am. I'll be back on in a second, right? But at the end of the day, this is what they actually wanted. Now, why is this so interesting? Well, because it needs to be said, where's little me? Little me? Is that me? No? Hold on a second. No. That's not me either. Put that down. Hold on 1 second. Give me a second. There I go. Okay, so let's get into this, right? These jury instructions. So this is what Diddy first tried to submit. Now, everybody was laughing at them because they said the defendant, Sean Combs, through his undersigned attorneys, respectfully submit these additional requests to charge the jury. Now, you know, Maureen Comey, Emily, and the prosecution 6 came and clapped back, but it doesn't mean that Diddy didn't try, okay? So the first thing he wanted was an additional request for number 1, okay? Now, let me just go through these really quickly. I'll give y'all the summary, and then we're going to see how they actually played themselves. Again, it is for certain that Diddy walked into the prosecution's trap, and he is 100% going to be found guilty, and not just on one thing, because they made a trap through these instructions that the jury can't get out of. But more importantly, Diddy's team kind of painted themselves in a corner where the only thing left was appeal, okay? The first thing that they actually said was, about the immunized witnesses, okay? He wanted everybody to know with these immunized witnesses that you've heard the testimony of the witnesses who's testified under the grant of immunity from this court. What this means is that the testimony of the witness may not be used against him in any criminal case, except for prosecution for perjury, giving a false statement, and otherwise failing to comply with the immunity order of this court. You're instructed that the government is entitled to call as a witness a person who is granted immunity. Let's skip through this. However, the testimony of a witness who has been granted immunity should be examined by you with greater care than the testimony of an ordinary witness. You should scrutinize it closely to determine whether or not it colored in such a way as to place guilt upon the defendant in order to further its own interests, such as a witness confronted with the realization that he can win his own freedom by helping to convict another, has a motive to falsify his testimony. Such testimony should be scrutinized by you. This is what Diddy is saying to the jury. By you with great care and should act upon it with great caution. Okay, first of all, that is their first proposed jury verdict instruction. They're giving this to the judge, and the judge is going to wrap it up and actually give it. Now, everybody with a brain knows they are not going to get that. Why? Because it shows how desperate they are. You are literally trying to have a closing statement in your opening instruction. Now, to be clear, right? Diddy can propose anything he wants, but the judge is not going to lose them. Why? Because the first thing off the bat is a legal overreach, okay? You're trying to say with immunized witnesses that they have a motive to lie, okay? First of all, it's legally inaccurate for the Southern District of New York precedents what immunized witnesses actually are. And it's going to be rejected or replaced with the prosecution's version. And the prosecution doesn't have a version, okay? So already off the bat, they're trying to plant doubt in the jury's mind, okay? This is what Diddy wants to do. This is fresh off of the court document. They are demanding that the judge basically say, and again, they are just fleecing Diddy. They're demanding that the judge basically say that, oh, well, guess what? You know what? Since they're immunized and they're supposed to tell the truth, you need to look at them extra closely because they might be lying. Why? Because they have a motive to falsify their testimony. It is 100% not going to work, but hey, Diddy is willing to try anything he can. But again, this is expected to be rejected because it is unconstitutional to actually put this in jury. You cannot imply, you cannot have closing arguments. All you can do is instruct and clarify. To say this person might have a motive to lie, look into it, just goes to prove. And the prosecution actually said in their rebuttal, what the hell are y'all talking about? This is straight up illegal. Now, why did they put this in? I'll tell you why. Remember what Mark Agnifilio said? Yeah, I know my client has 50 million reasons. Well, guess what? Diddy's team has 20 million reasons. Diddy is paying them to work. They just can't act like they're nothing. They're throwing Hail Marys at the wall and they're doing what they can do. Now, the defense additional request number 2, right? Specific investigative techniques. During the trial, you may have heard testimony of witnesses in an argument by counsel that the government did not utilize specific investigative techniques. You may consider these facts in deciding whether the government has met its burden of proof. Because as I told you, you should look at all evidence or lack of evidence in deciding whether the defendant is guilty. However, you're also instructed there is no legal requirement that the government use any of these specific investigative techniques to prove its case. Law enforcement techniques are not your concern. Your concern, as I said, is to determine whether or not the evidence or lack of evidence of the defendant's guilt has been proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Again, this is actually expected to be rejected too. Why? Because what the hell are y'all talking about? You are literally trying to plant a seed of doubt in the jury's mind as to whether the government used correct investigative techniques. There was one cross-examination when Tinny Garagos was asking dumb questions. Oh, so you didn't look. Did you look? Did you look and make sure? And the girl was like, what are you talking about? My job. And the guy also was like, what are you talking about? Our job was to make charts. Our job is once the unit secured all their guns, we went and took pictures. Oh, but did you guys, Mark Agnifilio, but did you bother for the sweeping unit? Did you bother to take pictures? And they were like, no, we never take pictures. We have raided Pablo Escobar's property. And they go in first to secure and make sure all firearms are secured. And then after that, we go and take pictures. How do they secure it? They take all the firearms out. They lay them out. Whatever. They spent 2 hours. But did you bother to take pictures? Tinny Garagos, oh, so you didn't bother to check these messages? And the girl was like, no, my job is to take the messages that are given to me and match them to hotel receipts. But did you see these text messages where Jane was saying, oh, I miss you too, I'll see you soon? And they were like, No, we didn't do any of that because our job was to line up receipts with air travel, with Uber receipts to show that they were in the city. Like, we're not here to quibble over what text messages are admitted or not. And also because we didn't even know what would be admitted when we made the chart. Why are they putting this instruction in? Because they want us to know, right? Hold on, y'all. They want us to know 100% that the government didn't utilize specific techniques. Again, it's not going to work. This is expected to be rejected, but this is what they're asking. Defense additional request number 3. Let me just get through this, and then we're going to get to the actual verdict instructions that the prosecution set forth. And baby, they have ended Diddy's team. Okay. So here's the thing, right? The specific investigation techniques, the legal function, right, is to tell the jury to consider missing investigative tactics. Again, they're trying to suggest a sloppy or a biased investigation. We already know that last time they tried to suggest this in court, the judge knocked it out. Okay. Now, you guys, this is their first proposal. Let me get through this quickly, because when you see the second proposal, they have a second proposal they just dropped like 20 minutes ago. You will see how they are playing in our faces. Okay. Defendant's testimony. Okay. Now, this is only if Diddy testifies, they want this included. The defendant in a criminal case never has any duty to testify or come forward with any evidence. This is because, as I've told you, the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt, and it remains on the government at all times and the defendant to be presumed innocent. That burden remains with the government throughout the entire trial, never shifts to a defendant. A defendant is never required to prove that he is innocent. This is true, right? But, again, you are making an argument that happens at the end of trial, okay? In this case, the defendant did not testify, and he was subject to cross-examination the defendant did testify, and he was subject to cross-examination like any other witness. You should examine and evaluate his testimony as you would the testimony of any other witness, okay? Now, listen. This is telling the jury to treat Diddy's testimony equally. It humanizes him. Now, to be fair, this is a standard instruction, just like the next one is if he does not testify. Therefore, you must not attach any significance to the fact that the given defendant did not testify. No adverse inference against the defendant may be drawn by you because he or she did not take the witness stand. You may consider this as a way to, okay, that's standard. That's going to get in there, right? But here's where it becomes really, really weird. They have this voluntary intoxication thing, which is Diddy basically saying this is not my fault. They said there's been evidence that the Diddy may have been intoxicated at the time of the offense with which he was charged. Intoxication or drunkenness in itself is not a legal defense to a criminal charge. However, intoxication or drunkenness may negate the existence of the defendant's intent to commit the crime that the government must prove in order to convict. On the evidence before you, if you find that Diddy was intoxicated, you may conclude that Diddy did not have the required intent described earlier. On the other hand, even if you believe that Diddy was intoxicated to some degree, you may still conclude he's capable of the required intent. After considering all the evidence, if you find the government has established each of the elements beyond a reasonable doubt, then you may find the defendant guilty. On the other hand, if the government has failed to meet this burden beyond a reasonable doubt, you must find the defendant not guilty. Now, here's the thing, right? This 6 requests, let's look at what they actually wrote. If you find that Diddy was intoxicated, you may conclude that he did not have the required intent. But again, the prosecutors wrote a response to this. They were not having it. In their response, they literally said, no evidence shows Diddy was drunk the entire time he was committing these crimes over multiple years. You don't get to blame sex trafficking on being tipsy. Again, Diddy is out here trying to argue, I was too drunk to commit federal level felony crimes for over a decade. This is not a defense, especially because the judge is likely to reject it, because that means you were intoxicated while you were performing at shows, doing the Bad Boy reunion, building a $1 billion company. Remember, you said, oh, we're not a RICO, but then when were you not high or drunk? It is impossible to argue that you were not sober for over 10 years. They are saying that the request number 6 is 100% going to be rejected. But hold on, this is the first set of jury instructions, and then they just did a last minute proposal, but you have to see the last minute proposal before we get into anything else, okay? Now, the defense additional request for number 7, right? There's been evidence presented. There has been evidence presented regarding large quantities of cash. There's nothing unlawful about possessing large amounts of cash, and it's not a crime to keep large amounts of cash. Now, you guys, this is 100% going to be rejected. Why? Because you are literally trying to say bulk cash isn't illegal. While this is true in isolation, it feels like a closing argument defending suspicious facts. You don't get to make a closing argument in the jury instructions, okay? The request number 8 is crimes defined by statute only. The fact that you think certain conduct is unethical or morally wrong is truly of no consequences in this case. This is a huge, huge, huge overreach. They're literally saying that just because something is wrong doesn't make it a crime. He's basically asking, so what if I'm morally bankrupt, but that doesn't mean I'm legally clean? Again, they're trying to do Jedi mind tricks to trick this jury, saying basically don't believe your lying eyes, okay? It's giving legal gaslight. On top of this, this is another closing argument. It is an overreach. You don't get to remind people that just because you have to go by the crimes defined by the statute over. It really doesn't make sense. Hold on really quick. I had listen, and again, I know what some people might be thinking, why this sounds neutral on the surface. It's coded to plant the idea that bad behavior isn't necessarily criminal. Again, this is another argument, not instruction. Now, here's the real big thing, right? The RICO case. They literally said that he's not in the RICO anymore by the statute of limitations. They said count 1 has a 5-year statute of limitations. Therefore, you must determine whether the RICO conspiracy charged in count 1 and the defendant's participation in the charged conspiracy continued beyond September 12, 2019. Even if you find that the charged enterprise existed beyond that date, you must be satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that Diddy knowingly participated in the charged RICO conspiracy of count 1 beyond September 12th. Okay? Now, Diddy's team is trying to claim the only way to stop a RICO is to claim that you left the RICO. So interesting enough, they're saying, listen, Cassie might be a RICO. Cassie might be sex trafficking. Cassie might be everything that Capricorn Carrie, Mia, Kid Cudi, everything that everybody testified might have happened. But the statute of limitations ran out on September 12th, 2019. So because of that, oddly enough, Diddy is, I just want to talk about September 12th. Diddy is oddly enough trying to say that the Cassie was a hoe defense. And again, Cassie is not a hoe, but that's a dumb defense that Diddy and his incel army is trying to make, right? And the man-identified women that are holding him up are trying to make. However, by doing this, Diddy admits that him and Cassie broke up on September 12th, 2019, not the November that he was claiming happened with Alex and the overlap. He's admitting that. Now, hear me out, right? They're trying to say by saying that even if you found him guilty, everything ended on September 12th, 2019. That means that they're trying to say that Cassie was the only real victim. And when it comes to the stuff with Jane, that doesn't count because that's not part of RICO. That's something different. That's boyfriend-girlfriend behavior, okay? I don't know whose boyfriend is saying you better take this effing pill and you better go F somebody's blank. You better go F something because you're not ruining my effing night, right? He said that, but the prosecutors fired back. They said, no, once you're in a conspiracy, you stay in it until you prove you withdrew. And Diddy hasn't done that. There is no clean break, clean walk away just because you shrugged your shoulders. And under the eyes of the law, if you are involved in a conspiracy, so let me just break this down, right? Say we have a conspiracy to rob a bank, okay? And we meet a couple of times at the local Starbucks, and you show me like Ocean's 11, the outline to the bank. You show me this, you show me that. And I'm like, bet, 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 bet. And then I go home. And on the third time I go home and I say, you know what? I don't want to rob that bank. I don't want to rob that bank. So what do? You call me the next morning like, yo, it's bank robbing day. I send you the voicemail. I don't talk to you. I don't do anything. That bank gets robbed. And let's just say a guard ends up getting banged, right? And let's just say the guard ends up dying. Now, when the boys in blue and the feds roll up to your house and they say, yo, you're getting arrested too, because there's a thing called felony murder. I think that's what it's called. So if you commit a murder in a felony and it's part of a conspiracy, then everybody that got, you are all responsible. So everybody that was a part of the conspiracy to rob the bank has that felony murder charge, and you will all be put on trial for felony murking. Okay. Now, a lot of people have argued that that whole rule is unjust, but it is RICO. So let's get back to you and me. I left you on red. I didn't go. I'm out of it. When the police come and arrest me, I'm like, yo, no. I'm not part of it. But all you need to do for a conspiracy is to conspire and to take one step forward, one actual step toward the conspiracy. That one actual step further could have been me meeting you in Starbucks for a couple times and you showing me the maps of the bank and all this other stuff. The fact that I woke up one day and I decided just not to do it anymore, that's not enough to withdraw. You must, one, inform your co-conspirators, I am not involved. And then you must do something else. Then, after you do that, you must do something else. You must inform, hold on, y'all. You must inform the police or any type of, any type of authorities of what is going on in the conspiracy and tell them I am no longer a part of the conspiracy, and also alert the authorities. That is how you leave a conspiracy. If you do not do that, then you will be a part of that conspiracy to the very end, and anything that happens out in that conspiracy, good or bad, will be attributed to you. Diddy's trying to say that because he woke up one day and decided, I'm not going to do any more freak offs. I'm just going to have Jane in a house. That's not enough to withdraw from the conspiracy. Again, this is very, very thin legal ice. It's the equivalent of saying, yeah, I was in the mob, but I quit before it got too hot. Nah. You're in the game until you prove otherwise. And there is zero proof that Diddy ever abandoned that conspiracy. Okay, so these are the actual legal arguments and the takeaway. Okay, this is what's going on. Just to run it down really quick, right? Again, why are they saying about the immunized witnesses that they want that in? That's just to undermine the government's key cooperating witnesses. The specific investigative techniques they want included, that's to suggest sloppy or biased investigation. Evidence from searches or seizures, that's a normalized, shady seeming evidence like device one. That's where Diddy had the actual obstruction of justice. Defendant's testimony, it's supposed to humanize him. Also, the right not to testify, I mean, that's standard, right? Silence does not equal guilt. Voluntary intoxication is to create doubt about intent because you need to have the mens rea. The mens rea is the mind. Also, the bulk cash. Defendants against optics of wealth equals guilt, and the crimes must be statutory to confuse jury and to muddy the waters. And the RICO statute of limitations is to create a technical escape hatch. Okay, out of all this, the only ones that every legal expert is saying the judge will include in some way is the evidence from search and seizures, defendant's testimony, if he does, and defendant's right not to testify. Okay. The specific investigative techniques, it's going to have to be rewritten if they allow it, but they basically said out of all those jury instructions, only 2 will be allowed, maybe 3, and they're all going to be the standard. Now, okay, so y'all see what's going on with that, but get a load of this, right? Because I know what you're saying. Listen, Tisa, we got it, right? But I'm going to beat a dead horse. But look what we have here. Diddy's team, in a shocking thing, just submitted a last-minute jury instruction. And look at this. So you saw what they first put out, right? Now look at this one. Count 1, racketeering conspiracy. Do you find the defendant not guilty or guilty? Count 2. Do you find the defendant not guilty or guilty for sex trafficking of Cassandra Ventura? Count 3. Mann Act transportation. How do you find the defendant? Guilty or not guilty? This is submitted by Diddy's team. It's in stark contrast from what they were doing before. Count 4. How do you find the defendant? Guilty or not guilty for sex trafficking of Jane? Count 5. Mann Act transportation of Jane. How do you find? Guilty or not guilty? Now, you might be sitting there and being like, this doesn't make any sense. How can this be so night and day? Well, I did a little research and we found it out, right? Because here's the thing, okay? Why did the Diddy's team go from long instructions to a straight yes, no verdict street? Because the big arguments are buried inside jury instructions to a bare bones verdict sheet that suggests guilty or not guilty. It's not by accident, you guys. This is literally strategy. It's called keep it vague, and create wiggle room. They are trying to avoid, even though they have all these verdict instructions that are like looming, and now they put these instructions that are just straight yes, no. It doesn't make any sense because look at the prosecutions, right? Hold on. Look at the prosecution's instructions. Baby, they have paragraphs underneath. Do you think it's proven or not proven? And we're going to get into those in a second, right? But look at the prosecution's instructions. And then look at the defenses, right? Why? Do you find them guilty or not guilty? Again, what is the thing? The government's verdict sheet asks jurors to check off exact crimes tied to RICO. Let me pull it up for you. Here's their verdict sheet. They are asking for people to check off exact crimes. Look at this. If you found the defendant guilty of count 1, please indicate whether the pattern of racketeering activity the defendant agreed to will be committed involving kidnapping, attempted. Look at all this. This is their instructions, as opposed to the defense, who literally have it bare bones. Again, let's get into why. Now, the government's verdict sheet asks jurors to check off exact crimes tied to RICO: sex trafficking, forced labor, drugs, arson, etc. Why? Because this locks in factual findings. This supports future sentencing enhancements. Yes. So when Diddy goes to actually be sentenced, because he will be found guilty, when he goes to be actually sentenced, this actually enhances it. Those things that are 20 years to life, it forces the judge to move it up closer to life. Okay? And it helps survive appeals. But the defense verdict sheet avoids that entirely. Why? Because if Diddy is found guilty, they don't want the jury tied to why. They are playing a game. The less detailed the verdict, the more room that Diddy's team has for arguing general guilt without specific acts and avoiding mandatory enhancements, such as if sex trafficking is proven under federal law, you must mandatory enhance or add time to the sentence. Okay? By removing this detailed breakdown, and let me just go into the defense. By removing the detailed breakdown, right? Like, did he traffic Cassie? The defense is playing into jury fatigue and also jury sympathy, saying, do you really want to say this man is committed to all that? Or are you just unsure and tired? The simplified form lets one or two sympathetic jurors block a unified finding of specific crimes, even if they agree on general guilt. Again, they are trying to stack this so that any jurors that Diddy might have been nodding to, and any jurors that might have been filling Diddy's flow, they now have an excuse to convict on vibes. Now, where that happened, we will see, but they 100% have an excuse to convict on vibes. Now, hold on, y'all. Let's get into this, right? They're also buying appeal chips. If the government's detailed sheet is accepted, let's go to the government's sheet again, just so you guys can see night and day. This is what the government is asking. If the government's detailed sheet is accepted and the jury checks yes to trafficking Jane and Cassie, that's huge. But the defense version is used. If the defense version is used, and it won't be, and then the jury says guilty on count 1, RICO, then Diddy's team can later argue later on appeal. There was no unanimous finding of which acts were involved. This conviction is totally unstable. So the less specific and more flexible they are, that they stay with these instructions, and the more vague, the more chance they actually have of getting that appeal. Now, here's the thing. The prosecution wants to lock in every crime with a receipts folder. Diddy's team wants it to be super, super vague, just enough for any type of doubt to skate in. There's been a huge difference legally between this man did X, Y, and Z to Cassie and Jane to, maybe he did something bad. The stripped down form isn't a legal defense. It is a Hail Mary in its appeal. Now, why is it a Hail Mary? Because Judge Aaron has been jealously guarding this case. When I say jealously, just extra cautiously guarding this case from being appealed. He wants to make sure that there is no error and nothing will be appealed. But by doing this, okay, he did pretty much ensure that Diddy's stupid yes or no jury questions that they have set up, because in his mind, he's like, that's all he needs to do, and then they can get into appeal. Again, why are they doing this? Well, one, it doesn't hurt to try. But two, I believe they're doing this because this is what Diddy is actually paying them for, to sell him dreams that are going to turn into nightmares. Now, look at this, right? Remember when I said that the prosecution is not going to let these jurors just convict on vibes? No prosecution does. Because if you convict on vibes, you can get a nullification, you can get a mistrial, but more importantly, nullification is where they look at the jury and they're like, there's no way, given the facts, that any reasonable person would have decided that person is guilty. It's like if I can prove I was in Kathmandu and there was a murking in New York City and I was in Kathmandu and can prove it. If the jury comes back and say, T says guilty, I can literally be like, I want a jury nullification. There's no way that based off of the evidence that they can say that I actually did this, okay? But there's also something about the appeals process. By the prosecution, with their verdict sheet being so detailed, it eliminates Diddy's team saying, well, we don't really know. I don't think the jury knew what they're convicting on. Did they really say it was RICO, or did they just think it was guilty? Listen to this. If you have found the defendant guilty of count 1, then please indicate whether the pattern of racketeering activity that the defendant agreed upon will be committed involving kidnapping, including attempted kidnapping, aiding and abetting kidnapping, or conspiracy to commit kidnapping in violation of California law. That is with the Capricorn Clark. They want to know specifically what the jury ruled on with Capricorn Clark, and also when Diddy held Cassie against her will in the hotel when her face was busted up, and also against her will when he tried to drag her back to the freak-off. If you found the defendant guilty, please indicate whether the pattern of racketeering activity that the defendant agreed would be committed involving kidnapping, including attempted kidnapping, aiding and abetting kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit. Again, this is sample. Remember I said there's a kidnapping charge for Capricorn? That's A. Kidnapping for Cassie, that is B. Again, some of y'all might be saying, but Tisa, it says up front, how do you find the defendant with respect to count 1? It says guilty or not guilty, okay? However, the way the jury verdict sheets go, they do the A, B, and C first before they finish the guilty or not guilty. And get this, it's meant to get the jury talking. For the people that want to convict on vibes or convict on it or off of vibes if he's not guilty or guilty. Because if I go in there and I'm like, yo, this mofo's guilty, I'm going to check that off. And then for the people that check off guilty, they're like, okay, if you found that, what do you find for this count? What do you find for this count? What do you find for this count? Okay. But it also opens up the discussion with the other juries, the people that checked, he's not guilty. the people that check guilty be like, girl, what you mean? He's not guilty. Do you not remember this? Do you not remember this? Do you not remember this? How could you say that? And it gets the jury going. It gets conversation started. It gets arguments started. But also, if there's a hung jury, they know exactly what points were hung, because you might think that he is not guilty, but you can't say that none of this stuff happened. So what exactly are you saying you didn't see proof of? Are you saying you didn't see proof of the kidnapping, aiding and abetting kidnapping? Is that what you're saying? Are you saying that the RICO, that the defendant, are you saying that the RICO that the defendant agreed would be committed involved arson? Didn't involve arson, attempted arson, including aiding and abetting? Are you saying you didn't see that? Right? Are you saying that you did not see, you don't believe he did any bribery, attempted bribery, aiding and abetting bribery, or conspiracy? Again, the arson, obviously, the Kid Cudi, the bribery, Eddie Garcia. They have text messages, phone calls, paper bags. They even have pictures of IDs that were sent. They have an NDA. They have an NDA. Diddy trying to be so slick. There is an NDA under Combs-Goldwell saying you have given all evidence. They have text messages of KK being like, just tell them they were having a fun, drunken night. And the assistant, Diddy's current assistant, I think his name was Eli. The past one was like, lol, they're not buying it. Before KK and Diddy reached out to Eddie Garcia without even him giving the number. They found his number. Again, do you see how these jurors, even if they are falling for Diddy's nodding, do you see how the letter of the law and also peer pressure makes it impossible? If you check not guilty, they're going to run down. So you don't see evidence of arson. You don't see evidence of bribery. They have to show that they believe that evidence was not proven. Again, this goes into jury nullification and also appeal, right? Also, do you find that the defendant agreed that he did tampering with the witness or victim in violation of federal law? You know, I see a lot of stuff in violation of California law. I wonder if Diddy is going to have a state case with California, because there's a lot of this in violation of California law. Also, the defendant agreed. Do you think that he committed forced labor? I don't think they have him on forced labor in violation of federal law. I don't think they have him on forced labor, only because Mia was supposed to be the forced labor, and Mia didn't land well, in my opinion. I think she was being honest and truthful, but I just don't think she landed well on the jury. So I don't think they have forced labor, but who cares? They don't even need that. Do you think that it involved transportation for purposes of prostitution, whether the RICO activity that the defendant agreed would be committed involved transportation for purposes of prostitution? See, here's the thing. A lot of people are acting like that transportation for purposes of prostitution doesn't exist, and it's not that illegal, but it is. And if you say not guilty, that means that you have to say that wasn't proven, even though there are hotel receipts. See, here's the thing. Diddy's team is playing for social media. The prosecution is playing for a home run. Diddy's team spent so much time talking about, but did you see these text messages? Did you see these messages that said, oh yeah, baby, I can't wait. Okay, fine, great. But you realize it's illegal to hire prostitutes and fly them in. Not only did you fly it across straight lines, you even flew them out to Turks. All right. If you found, do you agree that the defendant agreed to commit a RICO involving inducement to travel for purposes of prostitution? We already have that with the travel logs. We have that with Jane. We have Cassie flying in. There's text messages. There's call logs. All those boring summary charts that we had to sit through, they were for a reason. Again, for the people that believe that Diddy is not going to be found and the jury's going to let him go, how can a juror say that all this didn't happen? Whether you believe that Cassie or Jane was a victim, you cannot honestly say that he didn't fly or induced induce people to travel for purposes of prostitution. You can't say that. There's text messages everywhere. If you found him guilty on the RICO, do you believe that he committed a RICO involved distributing and possessing with intent to distribute controlled substances in violation of federal law? Now, I know Brendan Paul, who literally is trying to erase his involvement with Diddy and make it seem like he was working for a fine, upstanding man, when the truth is, all the other assistants said they had bottles of pills, 500 pills. They were moving weight. Jane was bringing actual packages over. So even though Brendan Paul's like, I never saw anything, shut up. You never saw anything and you got arrested? Okay, boy, right? Again, it's true. Do you believe that? Also, do you believe whether, as part of the racketeering conspiracy, Diddy agreed or did commit sex trafficking to Cassandra Ventura between in or about 2009 and in or about 2018, and whether, as part of the racketeering conspiracy, he agreed to or did commit sex trafficking of Jane between May 2021 and May 2024. Now, here's the thing, right? Because they're going to put the statute next to it. The sex trafficking does not have to be continuous. And it only needs to be one time. When he sex trafficking by frogs, I know a lot of men want to act like that doesn't exist. When he told Jane, we're going out to Turks, just me and you, to celebrate your birthday, I promise you don't have to freak off. And then they got there and he had the escort waiting. That was sex trafficking by fraud. It was a person involved in the Commercial Sex Act, okay? And there was something of value exchange for the person orchestrating it, okay, and the person involved in the Commercial Sex Act. But on top of that, when the night he beat up Jane, second instance, where even if you didn't believe anything else she said, there's bruises and everything to show. The night he beat up Jane, okay, and he said, you take this effing pill, you gonna take this effing pill, you ain't messing up my night, you gonna have to suck something, you gonna have to F something, you ain't messing up my night. When he said all that, right? When he said all that, was that not an instance of sex trafficking by force? Not only that, Cassie being dragged to the room by force. Cassie, after she OD'd, being forced to keep performing by force. You only need one instance, not a bunch of multiple, not one person with, no, you need one person with one interest. They said, do you believe it in Cassie? Do you believe it in Jane? Even if you don't believe it in Jane, baby, do you believe it in Cassie? And if you believe it in Cassie, gotcha. We got you, we got you, we got you. We got you. Oh, wow. One second. I just got a tip. Okay. Count 2. How did you find the defendant, Sean Combs, in respect to count 2? Transportation with intent to commit prostitution. We can argue about whether Cassie was in on it or not. She was not, but we can argue. But if you don't believe that she was, did you do transportation with intent to commit prostitution? You did. You bought her over because you wanted to see her freak off. You wanted to see. Boom. Did you find transportation with intent to commit prostitution? Okay. Did you find sex trafficking Jane? Did you find transportation with intent to commit prostitution? You 100% did. You admitted to it. You called it a lifestyle. So what are we really doing here? You guys, the final instruction, once you have considered all the questions, please have the foreperson sign and date the verdict sheet and notify the marshal that you have reached a verdict. Do you see what I was saying when I said, you guys, they're not going to get away with this on vibes only. They're not going to get away with this on vibes only. Okay. Rudolph said Jane Doe was having FOs with the escorts without Diddy being present. No, she wasn't. Somebody said that Jane Doe was having FOs with, this is what I mean about the misinformation. Where did y'all hear that? Jane Doe was not having freak-offs with the escorts without Diddy present. She went to a Vegas party where she saw the escort doing a freak-off for Kanye and Bianca, but she wasn't involved. So she never had a freak off without Diddy present. That is a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. But you know what? I'm glad that everybody is really honestly spreading this misinformation and literally getting in on these lies, because when Diddy is found guilty, y'all gonna feel all the more stupid. And it's gonna be on some free Tory stuff where all the evidence is there, and y'all gonna be hoping till y'all 90 years old that there's an appeal. There's gonna be mystery people coming out, this and that. Oh, wait, hold on. One second. Can y'all hear me? All right, hold on. I got to charge a little bit. But again, there's going to be mystery people coming out, right? There's going to be mystery people coming out, telling some bull stuff, doing this, doing that. Oh, I got a story about Kanye and Diddy. I think I know why Kanye's doing all that stuff, but we're going to have to talk about that later. Let me charge this really, really quick. I got to charge the thing. So there's a whole thing with like the Kanye and it's like, y'all just gonna feel stupid, right? Oh, Rockman said, thanks for the update. You're welcome, Rockman. Y'all gonna feel so stupid when this shit comes, when this stuff comes out to be RICO. But again, it's gonna be impossible for the jury to skate by. Now, hear me out on this one, right? Because y'all know I have one more thing to actually show. You guys, I want to draw your attention to something very, very, very important. And it's something that I want to, where are we at? No, that's not it. Is this it? No. Is this it? No. Oh, here we go. There's something, wait, is this it? Do I have this up here? Hold on, y'all. I want to call your attention to something very important. I'm going to have to, it's not this. Wait, I think it is. No, hold on. Let me just change this and see if I can change this really quick. Okay, here we go. I actually think that we need to actually take a look at the original superseding indictment. And the superseding indictment was the last indictment they did, and it is the fullest, best representation of all the charges against Diddy, okay? Now, why you might be saying, Tisa, por qué? Why are you showing me the superseding indictment? Because two reasons. One, I love being right. I love it. It's the sweetest thing I've ever known. I love being right. But what's the second thing? Because I love proving idiots wrong. And this is for the people in the back, okay? Y'all realize that as much as these, couch chair legal people are saying, and I don't give a damn if you got an Esquire, I don't care how many alphabet letters you have behind your name, okay? I don't. You cannot deny legal fact. And there's a lot of people, and you see from Diddy's paid people, that are trying to deny legal fact. Now, what does that mean when I say they're trying to deny legal fact? Because as much as people are saying, oh, I don't see RICO, I don't see racketeering, I don't see any of that. Well, do you know what you should see? Do you know what you should see? You should see the fact that in the indictment, they literally listed federal crimes. Their job in the courtroom was to prove that Diddy committed federal crimes. And as much as some of these Diddy loyalists want to cry and scream, yo, I don't see it. Okay, it's boyfriend, girlfriend. Okay, it's DB. What else? As much as these people don't want to admit, everything listed in this indictment is a federal crime. You might not think it's a crime. You might do it, but you're not a federal judge. You're not a federal prosecutor. So instead of being like, oh, this is what the defense testified, and this is what, well, the defense didn't testify anything. This is what the people testified, and I don't think this and that. I don't see RICO. Let's go back to the indictment, because whether you agree that this should be illegal or not is different from the fact that everything they listed was, in fact, a federal crime. So with people got on the stand and they proved these things happen, no matter how minor you think it is, no matter how insignificant you think it is, no matter how much of a lifestyle you think it is, then it's illegal they proved it, you going to jail. So I said, you know what? After the whole thing of trying to point out this person, no. Let's go back to the federal indictment, because everything in this indictment was illegal. That's why his ass is sitting in jail right now, because everything in this indictment is illegal. So the only question was, were able to bring witnesses? Could they prove any of this? Could they prove any of this? Well, I'll let you be the judge. Sherry Scott, thank you so much. So for the next person that says, I don't see RICO, stop explaining to them what RICO is. Tell them to go look at the MF and indictment, because the MF and indictment that got him arrested and got him sitting in jail, the indictment knows what RICO is. And all they had to do was show that it happened. But okay, so let's get into this, right? Count 1, racketeering conspiracy, okay? Diddy has abused, I believe they prove he abused, threatened. Oh, he threatened Jane Doe with her releasing her blackmail tapes, and he threatened Cassie with releasing the blackmail tapes of the freak-offs. How do we know this for a fact? Because they showed the messages where they were both running and crying to KK. KK, do something! He's out of his mind! We know for a fact he abused. We saw the video. We know that he threatened Cassie and Jane Doe. And he coerced Cassie with her record career, Cassie with the blackmail, Cassie with promises, if you just do this, Jane Doe, if you just do this, I promise I'll do this. Women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation. I think they prove that Diddy didn't want anybody to know. That's why he was checking in under aliases. That's why he was having people sign NDAs. And this is also why he beat up Jane Doe that night. You're not going to take me from my kids. Protect his reputation. Remember how all those assistants, Diddy got me hyped. I'm sorry, I'm cursing. All those assistants that were saying, I think he's a great man. He taught me how to be a man. He was a great person. I think he's the best man in the world, right? Yeah, which makes me think Stevie J is probably sitting there saying, he's my man. But all jokes aside, all those people saying how Diddy was a great person and how they just wanted to protect and they just wanted to do this and they did this. Even Brendan being like, they were like, why did you take the drug charge? Out of loyalty. I wanted to be loyal to my boss. Again, the RICO. This is the filing, the indictment that got him arrested, because everything listed in here, no matter what you think, is in fact a federal crime and illegal. So they protected his reputation, and they went out of their way by holding Cassie in the hotel room, keeping the girls out of sight with the black eyes to conceal his conduct. To do so, Diddy relied on employees. Did they not have the employees? They testified. Everybody was like, Brendan said the drug mule. The fact that the drug mule got on stand and said, I actually don't think it was that much. I think it was more like for personal use. Thank you, Mr. Drug Mule. You may go. Yeah, y'all, wrap it up. Wrap it up. The drug mule said that he doesn't think his boss is a crime. It's a criminal. The drug mule said that he didn't think having that much was criminal. You guys, the drug mule said he doesn't think it's a big deal. We can wrap it up. It's fine. Did you guys hear this? The drug mule said that his boss is innocent. We can wrap it up. We can wrap it up. Like the fact that people were running with that story. Brendan Paul is an MFing criminal who's trying to protect his criminal boss. But that's my opinion, right? Anyway, my whole point is Brendan Paul didn't do any favors because, right? He relied on employees. Did he not? All those employees pledging their allegiance to Diddy. They were all pledging that they happily did his bidding. RICO. Resources. Well, we already saw the chief financial officer that couldn't say that he thought Diddy was a good person. We saw the chief financial officer and all of the accountant emails from Robin Greenhill, or whatever her name is, using the company's resources, the company's cars, the company's apartments, the company's houses, the company's everything to fulfill his sexual desires and protect his reputation, to conceal his conduct. I'm just saying. Oh, also, Mrs. Blackmon, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. I'm going to go through all the super chats in a second. I just want to get through this, right? And influence. Did he not use his influence? Did they not, with Eddie and everybody else, bring him to the house and give him tea and let everybody know no? Of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other things, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Okay? Keep in mind for RICO, you only need to prove 2 of those criminal things. Okay? He operated the business headquarter at various times in Manhattan, Los Angeles. Just also don't forget with kidnapping, when Capricorn Clark said that she had to show up every day, but that guy gave her a lie detector test to see if she stole his jewelry, which, by the way, didn't nobody steal the jewelry. Diddy was just messing with her. At all times relevant to this indictment, Diddy engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse toward women and other individuals. That's already been proven. The abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and definitely sexual. I think they've proven that. As part of his pattern of abuse, he manipulated women to participate in orchestrated performances of sexual activity with Diddy and at times with male commercial sex workers. Has that not been proven? Now, I know there are some people being like, oh, with Jane, she got charged to the game. Who hasn't lied to their girlfriend and told her she wanted a relationship and all you wanted her to do was to take this pill and like hop up on this blanket and do a full split? I get it. But again, we are not arguing anymore what the average person thinks. Everything listed in this indictment is illegal. So if there's any proof that he did any of this, that is illegal. Okay? Diddy and others acting in his direction made arrangements. These are his assistants and KK and his security for women and commercial sex workers to fly to Diddy's location. He ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. Again, y'all, I don't want to beat a broken drum, but what they just exactly pointed out was sex trafficking by coercion and fraud, and they have proved that he obtained and distributed narcotics. Brandon said he didn't. He thought it was personal use, but it wasn't. He had enough to share. Controlling their careers. We saw what happened with Cassie. Leveraging his financial support. Remember in Jane where he was texting her, yeah, you got to do this on the voicemail. You ain't going to be living in my house and not doing freak offs. And threatening to cut off the same. And he used intimidation, the blackmail, getting up on them, yelling, shouting, breaking things. And of course, he used violence. There are 2 instances that he can prove. So let me just also say this with crime. One of the reasons why they throw the book at you if they can catch you once is because people do not walk around with camcorders and filming people. I know you think it happens, but it doesn't. Most crimes, there's no real record of it. Most crimes, somebody forgot to pull their camera out. Somebody wasn't recording. Because the crimes don't happen with forward thinking. They happen in the moment and people are just stuck in the moment. What does that mean? It means that when the government gets any shred of proof that the crime happens, they throw the book at you because they assume that if it happened once, it's most likely going to happen again. Okay? Physical abuse. On numerous occasions, from at least in about 2009 to continuing, he assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects, and kicking them. That's been proven on both women. His violence was not limited to these women. It extended to his employees, witnesses to abuse, and others. Mia and Capricorn Clark, Dawn Richard, she also testified to that too. Again, the evidence is there that it actually happened, okay? On one occasion, in the Los Angeles hotel, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, Diddy kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, Diddy attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. Did that not happen with Eddie Garcia? And they got everything to prove. Again, everything written in the indictment was a crime. The feds have proven so far, they have proven everything with witnesses. So it don't matter what these crusty dusties are. I don't see. You don't need to see, baby. You're going to see when it comes to sentencing. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, he attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. Subsequently, Diddy, with the assistance of several close associates, paid the hotel security staff $100K for the hotel surveillance footage of the assault. Again, federal crime, and they proved it. Diddy, including certain employees, he had them carry out, facilitate, and cover up his acts of violence, abuse, and commercial sex. All his employees saying, the girls seem like they enjoyed it. Sir, but you're on the stand to say, did you help set up for a freak off? But the girls enjoyed it. Maybe. Did you help set up a freak off? Yes or no? Yes or no? Well, yes, but okay, thank you. Next, right? Cover up the violence. Did his security team and not even KK cover up the violence? Cover up the violence and the abuse? Did they not? Put her ice on it, don't have her around, having Jane around with a black eye. Did they not do that? Did they not do that? They did. Sounds like RICO. Sounds like sex trafficking. Sounds like everything in and this is what everybody lost sight of. It sounds like everything in this MF and indictment. They approved. This is the indictment. Everything in this indictment was illegal. You see how Diddy's team keeps trying to move the ball? This is what people were saying that the government couldn't prove. The government has 100% proved this. Now people are arguing on whether they think that should rise to a level of sex trafficking. It don't matter what you think. This is written on federal statutory law. All right? Those employees, including security staff, bing, 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 household staff, bing, 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 personal assistants, ding, 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 and high-ranking supervisors, KK, psst, psst, KK, girl, they talking to you. KK, I think you're going down next. You're getting the just saying Maxwell treatment. First, they going to take down Diddy, and then they going to take down you. I do want to say this. I was talking to my girlfriend, Alfie. What's up, girl? If you're watching this, probably not. I put out so much material. She's like, I'll just call her and get it straight. But think about this, and it's something that has to be thought about. Y'all think KK was in love with Diddy? Because why isn't KK flipped on Diddy? Jamie had this thing too, that KK was in love with Diddy. Diddy, every woman around Diddy, he had a very close relationship with. KK was in love with Diddy, I believe. And it might have crossed the lines in the physical sometimes. I don't know. I don't know what they do in their rooms, in their bedroom. Well, I know what Diddy do in his bedroom, but I don't know what KK does. And it seems like KK's loyalty, because KK is obviously a smart person, but it seems like her loyalty to Diddy bordered on you are loved and obsessed and you want to protect him. You want to help him. Or at least that's just my guess, right? And other close associates acted as intermediaries, and their contact was facilitated and assisted by Diddy's control of the business. They go into the Combs enterprise that's already been proven, and they go into the purposes of his enterprise. Okay, they've proven that. The means and methods of the enterprise, they used the enterprise, wielded the power and prestige as Diddy's role in the business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into its orbit, often under the pretense of romantic relationship. He then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims, including but not limited to 3 female victims. I know Gina dropped out. Gina, don't worry. He's going to be convicted and he'll be removed from your life. And honestly, I think that's good because judging by the way he treated her in the past and Diddy being so vindictive, I don't think it's escaped his attention that Gina might have been not cooperating, but planning to testify at one time. I think that if Diddy is convicted, it will probably save Gina's life. So she's still in the throes of abuse. She's still on that KK level of devotion, but this is going to help her too. To engage in commercial SMEX acts. In connection with the commercial SMEX acts, he provided victims with, among other things, money, career opportunities, and payment of rent or housing expenses. Is that not what he did? Is that not what he did? It's not what they've proven that he did. Again, some of the commercial SMEX acts involved male commercial SMEX workers and referred to Diddy, among other things, as freak-offs. They were elaborate and produced SMEX performances that he arranged, directed, and masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. Did they not prove that? In arranging the freak-offs with the assistance of other members and associates of the enterprise, did all the assistants not testify that they helped set up one or two at one time? They transported and caused to be transported. Again, their travel agent, the agents, the girlfriends, commercial sex workers across state lines and internationally. Internationally was that trip to the Turks that he used to get a freak-off with Jane. Freak-offs occur regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial sex workers. During freak-offs, he distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep them obedient and compliant. Did he not prove that? Did he not? Did he not prove that? Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, he kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, Diddy and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical extortion and drug use. Yeah, members and associates of the enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and his business employees, facilitated the freak-offs, among other things, by booking hotel rooms for freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with the required freak-off supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, and lighting, cleaning the hotel rooms after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage, arriving for travel for victims, arranging travel for victims, commercial sex workers, and Diddy to and from freak-offs, and supplying Diddy with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to Diddy to pay a commercial sex worker, and scheduling the delivery of IV fluids. In about March 2024, during searches of his residence, they found various freak-off supplies, including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Again, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, everything listed in here is an MF and crime, and they have, again, people didn't see it, but you don't need, they gave us the map, and people walked down the Google Maps coordinates and said, I don't get it, where am I? Motherfucker, look at the Google Maps. So you made a left through depravity, made a right on you going to hell, walk 10 blocks down, please get me off of this godforsaken freak-off street, and then make a left at you going to jail. Again, we don't have to wonder if they prove RICO. All we have to do is look to the original indictment and say, were they able to prove through testimony that this happened? Were they able to? At a certain point, it doesn't matter whether the women were willing or not at some times. It doesn't even matter if the women were willing 95, 99% of the time. You just need that one time. We have 2 victims. Between those 2 victims, it's easily proven 5 times that they did not want to engage, and they were forced, fraud, coercion, bullied to do it, and his whole enterprise worked together to help arrange, book travel, get things out, cover up, and whatever. This lifestyle that Diddy wants to push, mofo, it is illegal. Kanye and everybody else, you won't notice. Anyway, he subjected the victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause them to engage in freak-offs and other commercial sex acts. That's been proven through text messages. They want to paint it as a lifestyle, right? He maintained control of his victims through other things, physical violence, promises of career and financial opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support. They have voicemails and texts proving he did all this, and other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and supplying them with controlled substances. Bing, bang, boom, 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 bop, bam. The type of shit you wouldn't understand. During and separate from freak-offs and other commercial sex workers, Diddy, among other things, hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims at times by their hair. Both victims testified. Diddy confirmed it. Bum, bum, bum. Their assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Following the assaults, Diddy, with the assistance of members and associates of the enterprise, frequently worked to conceal his misconduct by offering to provide medical assistance or other financial benefits to the victim. He threatened their careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted engaging in sex acts with him, and at times with him and the commercial sex workers. He believed that the victims believed they could not refuse the demands without risking their financial or job security, or without repercussions in the form of physical and emotional abuse. Diddy often used sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings that he made during freak-offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience and silence. Did he not? Did he not? Yes, he did. Members, on more than one occasion, he himself carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten others, including victims and witnesses. Capricorn Clark proved that. And law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s with defaced serial numbers, as well as a drum magazine. More importantly, Diddy and his RICO organization put control over victims by following his directions regarding financial payments to victims, advancing or suppressing the victims' career opportunities, and acquiring controlled substances used to keep the victims compliant. Even Brendan, I don't think it's illegal. Shut up when you have a drug charge. God, the audacity. Anyway, members and associates at times witnessed Diddy's violence toward the victims or the victims' injuries caused without intervening. Instead, members and associates of the enterprise helped conceal the violence and abuse by, among other things, assisting Diddy in monitoring and preventing victims from leaving locations such as hotels or the residence. These occasions included instances in which a victim was required to remain in hiding, sometimes for several days at a time, to recover from injuries that Diddy had inflicted without being publicly observed. Anyway, you guys, listen. The indictment goes on and on and on. They even say about the special sentencing factors, basically saying that because these are serious crimes, you have to aggravate and you have to enhance the sentencing, meaning that if the crime is between 20 and 40 years, you have to give up to 40 years, because anything else, it's RICO, baby, and you know how it is. You know how it is, right? Oh, listen, you know how it is. So I ask ye of everybody that is saying that they don't see where the RICO is. All you have to do is look at the superseding indictment. All you have to do is look at the government indicted. Because when it started, they said the government didn't have enough. And now that it's ending, the government 100% proved everything they said, and everything in that indictment was illegal. Queen Bree said, the queen is here. Bring it all the way on in. T said, Yana. Thank you so much, Queen Bree. Stephanie McKenzie said, love you and your reporting. Stay safe and feel better. Thank you. Honey Beer Therapy, thank you so much. Mimiuko, thank you for the super chat. Don Vicky Wilson said, finally caught a lie. Thanks. I hope you like this one. Fanny G said the trial needs to end with a guilty verdict. God bless. 100%. The AKT said, blessings and appreciations. Blessings to you. Sherry Scott, you are the newest member of the Channel Tells. Rockman said, thanks for the update. You're welcome. Miss Blackmon, thank you so much. That dude 73 said, my first super chat, your light shines. Thank you so much. And also Cody Code 39, thank you for being a member for 13 months, said, I think there was a relationship with KK. There's definitely manipulation then and now. I'm sure he's made promises to her that we will not know about unless she testifies. He has something on her. Listen, he might have something on KK. She just might be internally devoted, but she's giving. She's in love. She's giving. She's in love. So listen, you guys, next time somebody says, I don't see RICO, where they prove, look at the superseding indictment. Whether or not you think it's RICO, everything written in there is illegal. And they proved 90% of what was written in there. I don't know if they're going to get the forced labor charge, but at this point, they don't even need it. And you saw the jury verdict instructions. There's not a lot of wiggle room. It's not enough for them to say, I think he's not guilty. You have to explain whether or not you thought that was proven or not proven. And if you thought that wasn't not proven, that is grounds for appeal, not for Diddy's side, but for the prosecution, because the prosecution 100%. You guys, I don't even think this is going to be a hung jury or a mistrial by hung jury. I honestly, with all my heart, believe that Diddy will be found 100% guilty, 100% guilty. Listen, 100% guilty. Mary from Virginia, thank you so much for the super chat. Okay, listen, at the end of the day, what do y'all think? What do y'all think? I have some questions for you guys. I just want to take a quick poll before we go. Okay, we're going to play a little game. I'm going to look at the chat. You don't have to super chat to actually get these instructions, but let's get into it, right? Let's go into a poll. Where are my questions? Do y'all think the jury, okay, Put a 1 in the comments if you think the jury is going to buy Diddy's strategy that it was just a consenting relationship. Put a 1 in the comments if you think that the jury is going to buy Diddy's defense. Put a 1 in the comments. Oh, you're right. SR said Diddy paid me about $400,000 to settle for unpaid overtime. That's forced labor. Good point. Good point. Good point. You guys, put a 1 in the comments if you think that Diddy is going to be found not guilty. Okay. Put a 1. Wait, you guys think Diddy's going to be found not guilty? Listen, Diddy's going to be found guilty on most things. They only need him to be found guilty on 2 things to get him with the RICO and the sex trafficking. I think they have about 13 charges there. They are going to find Diddy guilty of at least, honestly, well, actually, they might have 9 charges because Gina's charges don't count. So I think they're going to find him guilty of at least 6. He's guilty of at least 6 charges. Easily. They got his ass dead to rights, like dead to rights. Oh, also, really quick, Mary Virginia, thank you so much. And Allie A said, my dad, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Allie. You guys, send some love to Allie A. She said her dad passed recently. These lives helped me grieve. We're sending you love, support, and healing energy. You guys, send Allie some healing energy. I'm so sorry to hear that, Allie. I'm sure he was an amazing man. I'm sorry you're dealing with this grief. But I'm happy that, like, your love for him will actually live forever. It makes me also, Valentine TV, her mom is still alive, but I think about her a lot too. Allie and Valentine, send some love out to both of them and their healing energy. I know Valentine's mom is like really sick and hasn't been doing well, but you know, we wish what we wish. In any case, you guys, listen, on that note, listen, life is short. We need to show love and we need to live life with this type of exuberance and freeness and just wholeness of the heart. And part of doing that is getting these animals off the street. Part of doing that is making sure that I don't care what song it is. I don't care about somebody's legacy. I don't care about how much money they have in their bank account. At the end of the day, we have to get these predators off the street so that the time that we have left, the time that is fleeting, the time that everybody goes, it just goes a lot better. All right. I just really, we need to make this world a better choice, a better place, so we can all start living like to our fullest potential and in happiness. And it starts with just getting these people off of the street. Anyway, you guys, listen, let me get out of here. Allie, my heart is with you. Our heart is with you. Shout out to Valentine TV. I don't know if she's here, but like she's been weighing on me a lot too. But my heart is with everybody going through something or having gone on the other side of one of the most horrific things that any human can actually experience. Okay. But in any case, I might actually go to Idaho next. I need to start covering the Idaho 4 trial. I might. Thank you for that. Are you guys like me? Like every single time something's said, I cling to something really happy because like the heaviness of what Valentine and Allie must be feeling. I hope we are able to offer you some type of relief and respite in the storm. Respite. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, exactly. Listen, it's the end. Who said that? Love said exactly. Instead of worshiping celebrities, we need to protect our children as well. Exactly. F those celebrities. It's all smoke and mirrors. You see the way the world is going on. We are about to get into, I don't even want to talk about what's going on with the bombs dropping and all this other stuff. But no, it's like, no, something has to give. We can't live in this version of reality anymore. Listen, in any case, you guys, let me know what you think in the comments. I will talk to y'all much later. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be dropping videos tonight. Don't worry, there's gonna be a few of the videos, so if you're bored or you need more distraction, check out the videos. Okay, gotta go. Bye everybody.